Ayubowan, Vanakkam. I'm Vayoni Dimel. This is Boston Lanka News, bringing you news, views, and entertainment from Boston and USA. Victims of LTTE can join as plaintiffs in the lawsuit filed against Raj Rajaratnam in USA, says Attorney Elsner. A Sri Lankan living in Boston wins the recognition as Outstanding American by Choice. Attorney Michael Elsner said, yes, they can, joining in an exclusive interview with Boston Lanka, responding to a question about the possibility of any other victims of LTTE violence joining in as the plaintiffs of the lawsuit against the Sri Lankan-born Wall Street hedge fund billionaire Raj Rajaratnam. The lawsuit, Krishanti vs. Rajaratnam, was filed in the U.S. District Courts of New Jersey by more than 24 Sri Lankan citizens who claim they lost family members or were themselves injured in 5 bombings carried out by the Liberation Tigers of Tamil Eelam (LTTE) in Sri Lanka in late 2007 and early 2008. They further claim that Wall Street hedge fund manager Rajkumara Rajaratnam and his father J.M. Rajaratnam knowingly provided financial and other support to the Tamil Tigers. We join with Attorney Michael Elsner to discuss more about this lawsuit. Attorney Elsner joins us from South Carolina. Attorney Elsner, explain briefly in lay terms about the case known as Krishanti vs. Rajaratnam and a little bit about the background of the case.
Sure. The case is pending in federal court in Newark, New Jersey, before Judge Kavanaugh, and the complaint is filed by Sri Lankan victims of suicide bombings and other terrorist events against American-based financiers of the LTTE. And the suit seeks to do 2 things. One is compensate the victims for the suffering that they've endured, and 2, to punish those that knowingly have provided funding to the LTTE.
Why do you think that this is an important and groundbreaking case against the global terrorism?
Well, one of the tools that the U.S. government has given to victims of terrorism is to be able to pursue civil litigation against those who knowingly provide funding and other types of material support to terrorist organizations. And to the best of my knowledge, this is the very first case that's ever been brought to the United States against a financier of the LTTE, the first civil case. And we believe that this is an important mechanism by which to fight terror financing through our civil court system.
As you may know, LTT had killed thousands and thousands of people during the last 30 years, and I'm sure there are so many who can relate to the plaintiffs of your lawsuits. Can any other people who are in the same situation like your plaintiffs can join as co-plaintiffs of this case? And if they can, how?
Yes, they can. There are certain time limits that are set by courts in terms of when a victim must file a cause of action, and that time period is typically 10 years. And so 10 years from the date in which they choose to join the action, people that were injured or killed in events in the past 10 years that were orchestrated by the LTT are potentially eligible to join the suit. Of course, we must also have sufficient facts that tie the LTT's conduct to these defendants. And so we would need to examine the particular event, particular attack, to determine whether there's sufficient nexus to these defendants to be able to hold them accountable for that particular event. But in general, victims are able to participate if they were victims of attacks in the past 10 years. And they can do so by contacting our office. We'd be happy to investigate that possibility for them.
As we know, Raj Rajaratnam's family foundation had given millions of dollars to the Tamil Rehabilitation Organization, TRO, a non-profit organization in Sri Lanka. What evidence you have that TRO has channeled all that money to LTTE in their terrorist activities?
I'm somewhat constrained by what I can say because we haven't been able to conduct discovery in the case yet concerning the specific funding mechanism of the TRO or the Raj Rajaratnam Family Trust or the other defendants in the action. But based on our preliminary investigation from public source materials, before having the opportunity to ask for any documents of the defendants, we've uncovered evidence that suggests that the Raj Rajaratnam and his father J.M., and thereby the family trust because they're officers in that, knowingly provided funding to the LTTE through the TRO and through other means. Evidence that corroborates those contributions there is statements that have been made by the former head of the LTTE, KP, who's currently in custody in Sri Lanka, and he has stated that Raj Rajaratnam has provided funding to the LTTE knowingly. The evidence that the TRO was financing the LTTE was long known, and known by Raj Rajaratnam and JM, we believe, and have alleged. And as evidence of that, there was a prosecution in the Eastern District of New York, and there were certain statements that were made by people who were being prosecuted in that case that the TRO is in fact the arm of the LTTE, and that there are documents that were sent to the TRO in which the LTTE is providing them instructions sent to people who are fundraising for the TRO that they were to engage in certain fundraising activities to support different activities related to the LTTE. So, but we believe that these pieces of evidence, and there's far more than that, but we believe that these pieces of evidence, when combined with the discovery we're able to get from the defendants themselves, when we're able to begin that process, will provide ample evidence for a jury to determine that Raj Rajaratnam and the family trust and his father J.M. and the TRO knowingly provided funding to the LTTE.
What could be the best outcome from this case for these plaintiffs?
Well, this action, like many others that have been filed, has really two purposes. And one is to provide much needed compensation to the victims who have suffered quite terribly from terrorist events that have occurred in Sri Lanka. There's not really a support system in Sri Lanka that's as complete as the one in the United States to provide victims of terrorism with the necessary support they need to return their lives to where they were before the events took place. So when the defendant engaged in which causes that harm to a plaintiff, it's important to be able to compensate them for that which they lost. Number two, we hope that the action has a deterrent effect so that other people that are engaged or have been engaged or are considering in the future engaging in financing of the LTTE will stop before doing so and say that there are serious consequences for engaging in this kind of conduct. And we hope that actions like this deter those from providing that known financing to various terrorist organizations, and particularly in this case to the LTTE.
Thank you, Attorney Elsner.
You're welcome.
Janet Napolitano, Secretary, Department of Homeland Security, recognized Dr. Rangita De Silva de Alves, Director of International Human Rights Policy at Wellesley College in Massachusetts, as an outstanding American by choice for her dedication and commitment to championing women's rights and human rights around the world. Secretary Napolitano did this recognition at a naturalization ceremony in Boston for more than 5,200 new U.S. citizens representing 147 countries. I am proud to welcome these men and women who have come from all over the world to become the newest citizens of our nation, said Secretary Napolitano. Dr. Rangita De Silva de Alves, international women's rights and human rights advocate, has worked with nonprofit and government organizations to develop innovative women's rights and women's rights initiatives around the world. She serves as an advisor to several United Nations law reform initiatives and is an advisory group member of the Secretariat for the UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, CRPD. She was born in Sri Lanka and naturalized as a U.S. citizen on July 4, 2010. That concludes our news edition this week. We meet you next week with another news edition of news, views, and entertainment from Boston and USA. Till then, goodbye.